DAW Nation, welcome to this episode of In the DAW with TYNAN breaking down his song, Dang. In this episode, you're going to learn about using samples for sound design, how to easily construct a drop arrangement, how to get strong downbeats, how to sound design a sub bass that has a huge bite to it, and so much more. And we're going to get into this episode right now. We got TYNAN, he's gonna be breaking down Dang. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good, dude, thanks.
Absolutely, man. And Multiplier could not make it today, so I did a little Facebook call over to Sam Dobkin, the lovely TRIVECTA. How you doing today, man?
I'm hanging on like a hubcap on the highway.
Wow.
You're the best decision I've made all day, Sam. We also have one of my patrons in here, ASANA. Let's get into this, dude. Let's get dissecting this, man. Sam, what's the first question you got for TYNAN?
Okay, Kevin, you're good at coming up with dope second drops, right? So you have a cool first drop, and this song's an example of a song where you have a cool first drop, and the second drop feels like it kind of pushes the song further, and it gives it this sort of like listenability all the way through and keeps it interesting. Do you have any tips for producers on how to come up with a second drop that doesn't feel like it's too far away from the original idea, but also doesn't feel too similar to the original idea?
Like, say for this song, for example, a lot of it came from just messing around with one sound and getting multiple things and ideas from it. So it was a way of using both ideas that I had from this one sound and using them both efficiently within the song. If you wanted to do a second drop that's different enough, I'd say it's about trying to reuse the idea that you have from the first drop in a way that's kind of newer and unique, or like reworking the sound to like get it to like say something totally different, go from there. Like, cause say for example, with this song, like a lot of it came from messing around with this Jameson Thieves bass loop, using some fun little racks here and there. The big thing was using LFO tool on the sound, which gives it this weird like syncopation to it. Without it, some movement and all that fun stuff.
Hey, we got to talk about that rack.
For the most part, like this stuff is all kind of supplementary. The big thing on this is the pipe resonator.
It's Corpus. It's the same thing I told you about on the last episode that we did with you, Sam.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's just a preset on there with some compressed room reverb and EQs here and there.
Could we hear what that sounds like deactivated with the resonator and the reverb deactivated?
Yeah.
That's still sick too.
Yeah, with the pipe resonator on it. Gives it a super like metallic feel, and everything else is just cleaning it up. Some warm tube is always nice. Auto pan to give it some movement. Stereo. Another compressed room reverb. Yeah, this one's the more like tighter, like makes it feel like the sound is just right in front of you. And then good old glue compression to make it loud. And then of course some layering too. What I like to do with layering and just in general with sounds in my drops is that I'll make a sound like within, like say I'll make this sound with this rack, and then I'll take it and make a new channel and just try to find a different sample, put it in a mini track and work with SERUM like while using that rack again. So it kind of gives the drop like a whole like, kind of glues the whole drop together if you're using the same thing for everything.
Kind of pouring the same sauce on everything, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there you can, like go in and, do some post work on it, make it sound good. Like this is just like a super low layer to go with it. Just taking a bunch of Virtual Riot samples and stretching them. And then for these like wubby things, I did the same thing. I think the wubs kind of take more from the Virtual Riot samples. Separately, they sound like different separate, but when they're together, it's like it creates this really rich, interesting wub.
What you're doing with samples and how you're processing them in the way that you're doing, no one can deny like that using samples like this is cheating. You know what I mean? Do I think that using samples is cheating? I don't think so, but like this right here is like, if there was any question that it was cheating, this is not cheating because you destroyed those sounds and rebuilt them.
Oh yeah, dude,
you know what I mean?
What's the fun of just using one sample? Like, that's lame. Have fun with it.
You're good at taking sounds and making them sound super aggressive and forward and strong and distorted, but also it doesn't come with those artifacts that usually come with distortion, such as these tails of and things like that. I get the feeling you take these sounds, you distort them. I'm thinking LFO tool plays a role in sculpting them, right? So can you talk a little bit about how you sculpt these sounds and keep from overblowing all over the place while still retaining that strength?
Yeah, it's definitely LFO tool is a big one, especially like LFO tool after trash, because trash is just my go-to distortion, hands down. Give it a lot of characteristics that it didn't originally have, and then LFO tool after that kind of sculpts the sound around it. This one was just actually a happy accident. I already had like a rack kind of similar to this, and I put the Jameson Thieves thing in there and like stretched it out. And then with the LFO tool, creating that syncopation, I was like, let's play with this. I'd definitely say, LFO tool is a big one.
The sequencing of the drop and with the basses and stuff. So kind of what I'm getting is that, you know, you kind of, at least in this song, you had a sample that already had its own groove, kind of had its own like sequencing, so to say, and then you manipulated it as much as you wanted to till you like the sound. And then you did that again with another sample to kind of create that call and response. Am I right? Is that kind of the process that we're walking through?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, what am I missing? As far as like, you know, you sequencing the basses and getting the call and response and everything to jive with each other, I mean, did I miss any steps of how you would do that?
Say the response came from me just messing around with the original sample. But I mean, yeah, because I think the original idea just had like this part looping for like a few bars. Like it sounded too repetitive, so cut out one of them and put something else in there.
How do you personally go about writing a drop that's not too repetitive, but not too variant at the same time? How do you find that nice little middle ground?
I think a big part is listening back to it as much as possible. And not just like in the studio, like say if you have like the idea down, you know, take a break from it and then going out and listening to it like in the car, if you're outside, just like trying to take it in a new environment so you can like kind of see if like it flows, if you're getting too tired while listening to it, then yeah, it's probably too repetitive. If it holds your attention while you're listening, like out driving, then it's probably not too repetitive.
Kind of looks like your little strategy that you had here is that you wrote the drop between bars 25 and 27. Then it looks like you kind of copied it over and then you varied it a little bit and then you copied that over and varied it. Is that kind of, am I right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what this is. If I recall correctly, I got it how I wanted it, but then had to like freeze it down to cut off some space like here and there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Kind of take it like one phrase at a time.
You do these 808s, these 808 bombs that just sound so distorted. I actually found one in your sample pack. I tried using it in one track and the track I was making, it was a little aggressive for it, but it was such a dope sound. And I'm sitting here like thinking, what is the process for those 808 things? Those, you know what I'm talking about? Those kinds of things.
First off, you get a good 808. This is my go-to. I think this is from like Nitty Gritty's sample pack. Nice, clean little. Few different ways you could go about it. Like certain racks that I have, like from past songs that I've kind of reused and whatnot. The big thing though that I like to do is like to bring up this plugin called DEFACER, which just if you distort it in low pass, it's really great for like boosting the harmonics right above sub note. You just, you know, beeps it up a little bit. And then erosion, wide.
Oh, I've heard that little noise on the top. Is that what that is?
Yeah, erosion's definitely like.
So I had no idea erosion was that dope.
All about that wide noise, just cranking it. You know, you can do up high, mid, really done low, but.
Can you play that for us with DEFACER off and erosion on?
Yeah, DEFACER is like the thing that pushes the lows a little bit, and then erosion's the one that just pushes everything else.
Let's keep right in this sound design train. What are some of your other like absolute favorite sound design techniques that you call on all the time?
I have this kick snare rack that I use for my kicks and snares. It's really dependent on what kind of kick and snare you're looking for, but like it will like cut through the mix no matter what. I mean, without it, yeah, it's a kick, but then with it, it just punches. It's especially great for snares. And then with it, it's especially evident like in the whole mix, because turn it off so you can like hear it without this on it. I mean, because there's different ways that you can like push these like snares and everything, but this is just the way I like to do it. And with it.
So do you put that rack on both the kick and the snare and then on the group, or do you just group them, or what's the strategy?
It depends. Say with this one, I noticed the kick, like whenever I had like dry wet on both the glue compressor and saturator on all the way, the kick was a little too muddy. I was feeling lazy and didn't want to like go in and EQ it and get it sounding right. So I set this to how I liked it and then made a new group with the snares and then just cranked everything.
When you're working on a track, how do you know when it's where you want it to be? You hear the track all day, and we're all of us producers hear our tracks all day, and I think we all have our different ways of knowing when we are satisfied with our tune. How do you know when you, especially when those sounds are so unique and so just like resampled and they get the, how do you know when you're just like, all right, this is good here, I'm done?
It's really hard to tell. It's hard to like explain like how, you know, like it goes back to the whole like listening to it everywhere you can and being happy with how it sounds everywhere. Because with this song, I wanted the leads to cut through the mix super well or like super clean. And if I could do that and it would sound clean on all platforms that I listen to, then it's good to go. Another dumb little test I'd like to do, if I'm like listening to listening back, I'll go back into that room and go into the kitchen to do something. And if it sounds good in there, like the song has like energy and everything, then I'm like, yeah, this is good.
Dude, that's actually a really good test. I'll do the same thing. I'll go in my kitchen right there. I'll also use my voice memos and just record the speakers and walk away and just listen to that later.
Like finding the most like ridiculous ways to listen back to your tracks. And if it still sounds good, then you're good.
Your sound design stands out when you first listen. When you first listen to a lot of your tracks, it's like, okay, wow, this sound design, it has the wow factor. I think a lot of what makes the tracks feel satisfying subconsciously is the strength of the rhythmic patterns in the drop. The rhythms are always steady, they're always strong, and they always give you what you want. What is your approach to coming up with your rhythmic pattern? Do you have any rules of thumb for how you generally like to make sure your rhythms, do you, for example, do you like to keep steady, you know, eighths or quarters depending how you say it, or do you like to make sure that with the snare you have certain sounds? How do you think of that?
I think it goes back to messing with the original like sound of like, say, like if I'm experimenting with a sound or like just messing with the sample, kind of hearing the sample by itself and thinking like, what would work around this? Like say for this one, you know, I could hear like that doing just strict like kick on the 1 and snare on the 3 would get a little too repetitive. So like trying to find something that would complement the sound itself and like what the sound is trying to do. It's all about what the sound wants to do. You make the sound and then you find out what the sound wants to do.
Got a music business tip for you guys. Do you guys know what the most popular social media is right now?
Instagram?
By far, without a shadow of a doubt. But what's really, really cool that literally no one is tapping into right now, let's say that collab is coming out with you and Seven Lions and Wooli. What you can do to promote that track a lot is so you can release it on the day, but then on the day that you release it, you can go live and you can invite both Jeff and Wooli on there. So it's like a combined live inside of Instagram itself. So it's not only going to push it to your fan base, but to Jeff's fan base and to Wooli's fan base all at once. And then you're going to get cross promotion between all of that because it's going to be live for 24 hours. So people are going to be following you from Jeff's thing and from Wooli's thing. Your fans are going to be following them.
And now I've got my quotient of learning something new every time I talk to you. But how about for your main drop sound? The rhythm of those sounds in particular, it's always pretty straightforward and satisfying and not trying to do too much, right? You have these crazy sounds, but at the end of the day, you're looking back and it's going to go da, 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 da. Is that conscious, or do you think you just kind of mess until it feels like, okay, this just flows right?
Getting it not only to like flow in a way that you think is correct, but also like, again, complementing the sound. Like, does the sound like it wants to do like the ba 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 ba, or does it sound like it wants to do ba ba ba? It's also experimenting with those kind of rhythms as well, just to see like what fits best.
How about downbeats? You have a strong downbeat. Do you think about that a lot? Do you think about that making a downbeat that grabs people?
Say an initial hit of the drop or whatever. Yep. That's something I struggle with a lot. Just like finding something that's like fits the vibe of the drop and is kind of ear catching is a big thing. I don't know. Usually I'll just do like some distorted noise just to catch people's attention. This was just like super metallic. Like it had all the things from the previous leads. But it's just something that's, I guess, really noisy because a lot of the times my drops are like, I guess, a little more spaced out. Or even if I'm doing a dubstep song, I'll have like a really strong one and then like a break on the up beat and then go back into it. I like to do really aggressive first hits and then finding where the break needs to happen for the lead to come in. It's always a big thing for me.
That's exactly what I was getting at, that type of answer. Because I remember talking to Adam about this, Wooli, obviously, and he was saying something about making sure. One thing he was saying was having certain sounds that are sort of the same on your snare. So like doing that sound, each time, right? And things like you just said about knowing where to find where the space should be. That's good stuff right there. Yeah.
What are some of your unique ways that you use to kind of create those interesting rhythms that you had? You know, you're doing some of the stretching here. You're using the LFO tool. I mean, what else do you do to kind of get that groovy rhythm going?
Say if I'm working out of MIDI, it'll just be about like playing around with the MIDI rhythm itself, and obviously just playing around with that. Again, like trial and error. What would happen if I just had like a kick and then that, and then move everything over, or if like move this here, maybe wait a few bars. For me, it's just playing around with everything to see like what will flow the best.
Here's a suggestion for you. So using the groove pool to evoke really interesting rhythms and swings. Have you ever done that very much?
I used to do that a lot whenever I made house music, using the swing on like certain samples and whatnot. Especially for like if I was lazy and wanted to do like a hi-hat loop. I definitely haven't messed around with like a lot of the like crazier grooves on there.
To try something really, really interesting, you could bring in, like, let's say a TRIVECTA song, you bring in one of Sam's songs and you cut out a part of his drop and you right click it and you say extract groove. And because it's a full song with really, like interesting everything going on, you can create an entire groove out of that and then put that on a bass sound. You see what I'm saying? See where I'm going with this? You can do it not only with MIDI, you can do it with audio too. You see what I'm saying?
I like this. All right. I'm trying to think of another song that like at least sound design wise.
Yeah, I could tell you. It's a real aggressive one where the drop, it's like a boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm talking about?
That's a fun one.
That's a banger. I feel like WYATT's gonna like do some animations when I do.
Of course.
Because if it's the one I think of, is it called Stigmata? Oh.
Like, Sam, I just want you to know that I really look forward to like learning from you, Sam. But what I really look forward to is your renditions of sounds.
There's a lot going on.
Don't you go triplets after that?
Oh, yeah.
I have to get this out. That sound like you enslaved a transformer to make you cakes every day for the rest of its life. Amazing. Okay.
And then it got sick and fed up of me telling it what to do, and then rebelled against me. It's like it yelling at you, like, "No, I won't make you cakes anymore."
Hey, I want to point something out about that track really cool, because the producer tip for producers, what he just did there, it's dope, is in the first part of the drop in like the late 40s, as far as bar lines, like 47, 48 or somewhere around there, maybe a little before that, you tease the triplets real fast. I think it might be right there.
I'm seeing a pattern though. I'm seeing the isotope trash 2 followed by the LFO tool followed by an insane rack, right?
Oh yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
So I think the main components of this are trash, LFO tool, and then this SERUM effects. Because this was around the time that I found out about SERUM effects, and also finding out that you could like say load any preset and it'll have like the effect rack on it. So I used something. So I used one of the ones from Cymatics. I can't remember which one, but it's called Sequence Idle. I really just used delay on it. Oh yeah, the sample is from, again, my friend's sample pack, but it's like this sample and hold thing. And then I took it, like stretched it out, pitched it down, nothing on it. And then after that, it's just, distorting it, putting some LFO tool to kind of sculpt it, and then the delay.
What's your LFO tool doing? Does it follow? It looks like it follows the quarter note pattern, huh?
Yeah. No, it's like automated to match the pattern of everything else. So like when it goes into triplets, guess what it does? Triplets.
Is it mostly on volume? It looks like that's all it's doing, yeah?
Yeah. I don't usually have anything routed to the LFO tool. Just straight volume. Stretching it out, pitching it down or up, like super low or super high, and then just moving around until I find something neat.
Where do you put this in one of your sets? Because I think a lot of your audience are producers who also DJ or aspiring to DJ. How do you approach putting something with this much like going on?
At the beginning of my set, I have my opening and like kind of the songs that fit around the opening. Then I'll might go to something more chill. But what I always end up with is starting that throwing elbows flip, then usually go straight into this. It's just like play a lot of heavy songs along with it, like throwing elbows flip. This song by my buddy Leotrix called Mercy works perfectly with this. Go into like Mountain Mar, maybe some Sudden Death. It's all kind of like the same, like super energetic all the way through kind of things.
So you put it in the smasher section.
Oh yeah, definitely the smasher section. Second drop is mostly MIDI using SERUM.
Yeah, can you play that? This actually goes into what I was asking before about coming up with second drop concepts.
I think my cat just threw up. It's that like held note thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope. What is it? I want it.
Preset from Somatics. It's from the Jaws pack. This thing is stupid powerful because I think the original one is like just some super like spacey Jaws like wub. But if you extend the LFO like all the way and like have it a held note, and then you just the FM. Yeah, but as for like, second drop concepts, at this point, I definitely wrote this drop like after everything else. I was like, I need a second drop. What can I do? It went back to, the first drop had like the eighth notes, kept going and then going into triplets. I thought, what if instead of that, we do like just a held note to kind of shake it up a little bit.
Contrast.
Awesome live stream today. Had me cracking up over here. Not really track related, but just in general with so many obligations in life, like producing, touring, friends, relationships. How do you achieve a balance between them all?
Yeah, for the most part, I have a set schedule because most of the time I'm doing shows on weekends or Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for like my work days during the week. Wednesdays, I have wings with my friends. Thursdays is work or get ready for a set, fly out, come back, do it again. And as often as I can, I'll see my girlfriend. Boils down to finding a routine that works with you. Stick and do it as best as you can. I treat this as like a job because at this point it is.
On both these songs, both the ones that we just dissected, is there anything that you would go back and change with them? Is there anything that you wanted to make different with them?
No. When a song's done, it's done. Let it go. Like, it is what it is. If you could have gone back and changed something, well, then you can do it on the next one.
Did you have a good time, man?
Of course. Thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, DAW Nation. Hope you enjoyed this episode of In the DAW with TYNAN. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and tick the little notification bell. Also, if you're interested in watching the live streams of these episodes and being able to ask your own questions, make sure to check out the $5 a month Patreon tier we have going on right now. Plus, we always bring someone from our Patreon on the show so that they can meet the artists, ask their own questions, just like ASANA did in this episode. Also, if you're interested in private lessons, there's links for that in the description. And finally, TYNAN was so kind to give us a gift from this episode. Maybe it's a sample, maybe it's a preset, maybe it's a rack, who knows? The only way that you're going to find out is if you go and click the link in the description. DAW Nation, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of In the DAW, and don't forget to check out our companion podcast, Behind the DAW. You can listen to that on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Deezer, YouTube, SoundCloud, and anywhere else that hosts podcasts. But DAW Nation, again, thank you so much, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.